Alright, resolutions, the most asked question I've ever heard in my entire life. And every time I stream, no matter how much I put it all over my frequently asked questions and stuff, there's always a resolution question and a why after and all these questions. So I'm going to try clearing it up as best I can. And to start it off, it's all preference, guys. It doesn't matter what resolution you use at all. And I'm going to get to some of the points of why someone would use something else, but it really comes down to whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you can headshot on. So there's widescreen, and then there's not widescreen, which is a 4:3 res. Just that's the ratio. And the widescreen, the 16:9 and the 16:10. Obviously, if you have a widescreen, you want to use a widescreen res. Either your monitor is a 16:9 or a 16:10, so you'd want to use the proper aspect ratio there, most likely. And there is an advantage to using widescreen. You do literally see more to the sides, and I will show that, but it's not really that big of a deal if you're a good player and you're looking where you should be looking. So let's say if you're coming out mid here, like if you have the correct crosshair placement, it doesn't matter if you get an extra inch or two on the sides. Like if you're looking here, and let's say you're looking mid here, you can actually see the lower B guy if he happens to flank you with widescreen, and you wouldn't be able to see that spot without widescreen. But it's not really that big of a deal, because most of the time, if you're playing at least on a good team, this might help more in pubs or if you're not really on a team. But if you're on a team, you know what's covered, you know what you need to be looking at, and everything's pretty much covered. Like if you're coming up cat here, usually you have a teammate in lower B, so there's no possible way that you'll have to flick to him, and having that extra little screen isn't that useful. So usually widescreen is not, the extra space that you see is not that big of a deal, and a lot of pros still use 4:3. So let me just go into, let me just throw down some people here. I'll just show people. We see DDs, lower B. Maybe, let's see here. Let me just line this up right like that. Alright, we see all those people. Let me put a guy right here, here, and here maybe. Alright, so on widescreen, we see all 6 people. And I'm going to change it here to a 4:3 res, and I'll show you the difference. I just do 1024, most popular one probably. And you see I even have black bars on the stream, and oh, it juked away a little bit. But this is pretty much, let's just say I see that guy. I was pretty much aiming like right here. You can see how much it really cuts off. I don't see the lower B guy, I don't see that guy or that guy. I see 3. So that might be a big deal to some people, but it's not really a big deal to a pro that's on a well orchestrated team. They know what's covered, and they have correct crosshair placement. They're looking where they need to. It's not that big of a deal, but someone else might, you know, think differently. So we also have, since we're on a 4:3 res right now, which is black barred on the screen, a lot of people will play stretched, and some people will play with the black bars. And some reason why they play with stretched is because it just makes everything a lot bigger. If you're playing on black bars, it's to keep your aspect ratio correct, and it keeps your sensitivity how it should feel like. Your left and right is the same as your up and down. And if you go to a stretch, let me change it on the stream here. 1 second, I can just go into keep aspect ratio, uncheck it, and it's stretching to the screen now for you. And as you see, it just makes everything really big. Like, it's very easy to see people with this resolution, and people like that because it also uses your full screen too. And if you want to have your full screen being used but not play widescreen, you would do a 4:3 stretched. But what I've noticed using 4-3 stretch, it takes a little bit to get used to, but obviously you can get used to it and become really consistent because Get Right uses a 4-3 stretch resolution, and he's probably the best player in the game. So shout out to him. But I personally don't like it because your up and down and left and right sensitivity doesn't feel the same just because your aspect ratio has been stretched. But it makes everything incredibly easy to see. You see heads very easily, and it feels like it becomes a lot easier to shoot people in focus. And I'm going to go back to a widescreen resolution. So I'm not going to go back to native just because I'm in window mode right now and I won't be able to do it. But we'll talk about it. So we're back at widescreen. And when I used widescreen for a while, I was wondering why it just felt, I don't know, I just didn't feel as good with widescreen. And this might be why some people stick to the 4:3 resolution. There's no real reason why people still like to stick with it or why, but I'm just kind of talking about and just trying to explain why people use certain resolutions. But when I used widescreen for a while, I actually did this. I went to my video settings, advanced, HUD size, which is right where the advanced was, and I actually moved this in with my HUD because I figured out that while I was on widescreen, because I played 4:3 resolution for as long as I've gamed competitively on a 4:3, and when I switched to widescreen, I was like, okay, it's 2012 or 2013, I'm gonna switch to widescreen. And I noticed that my eyes were just wandering a lot, and I was looking, like actually moving my head in real life to look at the radar, etc., etc. So by moving the HUD in, it actually helped me get used to widescreen a little bit, since everything on the HUD moved in. As you can see, my radar is a little bit closer towards the middle, and this keeps my eyes still focused on my crosshair. I felt like my eyes were wandering too much when I first switched to widescreen, but that might not be an issue with people that started off playing with widescreen. So that's just another preference here of where your HUD is. If you're used to widescreen, people that are used to 4:3, like a lot of the pros, that's why they might stick to 4:3 because they're just so used to it. And getting to the last issue here, we'll talk about playing. People would always ask me, since I played on this resolution for a while actually, was why wouldn't you play native? Why are you playing on 1280 by 720? And the reason why I played on the lower resolution was straightly just for the performance. When I played on 1920 by 1080, which is my native resolution and the native res for a lot of monitors, I just didn't get good frames, good FPS, and I really like to keep my FPS up and just have really good frames on maps, and I don't like to drop below 200 personally. And when I upped my resolution a little bit, I could feel that it just didn't feel as good. So that's straight up why. So if you have a really good computer, really good everything, you can try out 1920 and it looks very crisp compared to 1280. So if you like the really crisp look, the one thing I don't like about 1920 by 1080 is that everything is so tiny, it seems like. And I'll switch to it real quickly here, but I think I can do it while I'm in window mode. Hopefully you're still getting the whole screen. But here's 1920 by 1280. It's very crisp looking. It looks very good on your monitor, and you still get the widescreen extras. But if you look at this resolution, let me just see. Yeah, you see how. If you look at this resolution, if you just look at the people here, everything's kind of really small. And then you look back at, let's go to a 4:3 res here, and you look at this one. Everything just looks so much bigger on this resolution. It just looks like it's easier to hit, and that's another preference why people don't use the native resolution, not just because of performance, but because it makes things a little bit smaller. And that's why 4:3 stretched is also a popular resolution, because it makes things bigger. And I've pretty much gone over every resolution and just some of the pros and cons, just talking about them, and hopefully this, helps you decide what resolution you want to use so that you never ask the question again. Because at the end of the day, it's all preference, guys. Use what you want to use what you're comfortable with, and then just, use it. Thanks for watching.